real estate's this golden carrot that dangles out there that everybody just associates. If I've got real estate, I'm making money, financial freedom. Well, that sounds great in a fairy tale setting, but in reality, if you don't run that or handle it properly, man, like it could be the disaster, it could be the demise of your financial freedom. Implementing the right systems and processes, I think, is the biggest key. And then having a coach, whether that be a one-on-one or a group, getting like-minded people around you, elevating the people around you who are going to a similar destination. By elevating the people that I associate with, it naturally, I elevated myself.
Kill Complacency, a podcast that inspires growth and intentionality and helps you overcome your greatest obstacles.
So my guest today is Jason Biava. I actually met him last week at the REI Summit with Brandon Turner. And Jason, you had so much energy, so much enthusiasm, and we just got to talking about your business and the energy side, the tax things, and I immediately thought this guy'd be great to get on here to add value to the listeners. So could you Jason, tell us your story? How did you start Atlas Total Home, and what's your backstory?
So nothing fancy, man. Just like lower, maybe not even middle class kid. Mom was a teacher. Parents split up when I was young. Just nothing crazy there in Danville, Illinois, that probably 99.9% of the United States has not ever heard of. Just it's an old Rust Belt kind of town, manufacturing town in central Illinois. Everybody, if you're from Illinois, you're from Chicago automatically if you don't live in the state. That's what everybody thinks. But we're about 3 hours south of Chicago and about an hour and 15 minutes west of Indianapolis, to kind of put it in reference, right on the state line. Normal life, man. I lived with my dad for, I don't know, about 3-4 years, and lived in Lafayette, Indiana. So still kind of same central region. Typical football, wrestling, track, basketball, all that sort of stuff. And I got in a car wreck when I was 16. And, I was supposed to be some great athlete and all these things. Well, one, I stopped growing. So anybody who was looking at me kind of got disappointed. And then two, I couldn't pass the sports physical. So basically I just put my nose down, man, started working. And actually I was working before that. My uncle had an excavating company, and I started carrying block, so concrete foundation block, when I was about 11 years old.
Okay.
So the more coming from the blue collar,
Sure.
boots in the mud type thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And then tell me about how you started your company.
Well, I had a company previously, and I was really young, and we soared to success, man. I actually, right out of high school, I had decided I had done construction enough through my teenage and early years that I was like, I'm not going to do this, man. So I actually got in the automotive sales business when I was 18, and I started a week after I graduated high school. I just excelled in it, man. I did real well, not by tactics or slick talking or anything like that. I just told people the truth, to my best version that I knew. And rose became sales manager of a big dealership when I was 21, finance manager, general sales manager, all that, and kind of lived that life. Had enough of it, 0 to 0 every month, and that just wasn't for me. Started my own company. My uncle, who had the excavating, he died kind of suddenly, unexpectedly, and I just took a leap and I jumped. And worked out good. Totally different scope of work than what he did. I thought initially that I was going to do that, and the market changed. So we grew real big, and then we started doing bigger projects. And the tough thing when you're a contractor, man, you find that it's either you're like the 2 trucks in a truck, or maybe a couple more guys, or you're really big,
Yeah.
And that middle ground, that in between, is where it just doesn't work. It's tough. You're not a big guy, but you're not a small guy. You're incurring the cost of a big guy, but you're making the profit of a small guy. And anyhow, we were doing really well, grew real fast, and started doing some, light commercial stuff for a company, and doing a bunch of projects, knocking them out. Great construction, fast time, 2-3 item punch list stuff. And they just decided not to pay, And here I am at 29 years old at the time. And we were doing good, but I had to man, I had to take a second mortgage out on my shop, and I had to do this and everything else. And my wife was just like, we're not doing this.
Mm.
And as a little bit of faith, and God had it, the utility company in Illinois, um, they were looking for people, and a buddy of mine was a supervisor. He's like, dude, you get hired in a second. Sure enough, I did. Normally it's like a 6 to 9 month process. I was hired in like 2 months. It
Wow.
really was just going through the formalities. Spent about 10 years there. I learned all about the energy industry. I was a pipeline welder there. I was a crew leader, kind of got into that thing. And then I kind of felt myself, to be honest, Marty, I felt myself kind of becoming dull, I guess is a
Okay.
good way to explain it. I
Yeah.
wasn't being the best version of myself. Um,
Hmm.
and that kind of, it was an internal conflict that I had. Like it violated a core value. Like, dude, you need to do more. Like, this is great. Scarcity mentality in the Midwest is, that's a good job. You're making good money, and no offense to anybody who thinks that way, right? Like you die at that job. That just wasn't for me, man. It just wasn't in the cards for a guy like me. And so I dove into books, you
Mm.
know, I dove into books and started just reading and reading and reading. And well,
How old
full
are you at this
transparency,
point?
not
Are you?
reading, your audiobooks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. How old are you at this point, Jason?
What's that?
How old are you at this point when you start reading?
I'm 42. Oh,
Okay,
when I started reading,
when you start reading.
that would have been 22, so I would have been 39.
Okay.
you know and I would like dip my toe in it in like my younger life. Like I was joking with a buddy of mine, I still have a box cassette tape of
Yeah.
Tony Robbins' Personal Power that my grandma had, you know what I mean? And then I found some old CDs of like Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar and stuff like that
Okay.
I would like jump in and jump out, jump in and jump out. So it was always something on my mind. But then I guess just like with a lot of people in business, I started off with like Chris Cohn. I was like real estate was always something I wanted to get into, but we didn't have anything. My wife we had bought a bar and grill back in 2017, turned that thing all around, and it's been a good business. Um, but we never owned any real estate, and I just didn't know the math to how to
Hmm.
make it work. Um, I'm a big ethics guy. Okay.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is like my obligation as a husband and a father.
Yeah.
And that's the way I kind of run my company. I don't run my company like a family because people twist that. Hey, we're family, right? Well, family would be the first one to kind of kick you under the bus when you're not looking sometimes. But my obligation as a husband and father is to provide, protect, and prepare. Okay.
Hmm.
Well, if I would exit this so-called good job, great money, I would be not fulfilling one of those roles, the providing part. And so what I did is I switched gears, kind of like a lot of people, and switched to Kiyosaki. I read Rich Dad Poor
Okay.
Dad and all these different variants and versions, and kind of got my mind going. And I think a little bit of faith, and I think I paid my penance for about 39 years, is what it felt like, if you were to ask me.
If you want to wear a billboard of a message of kill complacency or live intentionally, then check out my merch store. It's www.mindsetshop.com. Mindset is with an X, so it's MINDXET shop, SHOP.com. Mindsetshop.com.
A lady that we knew, she had property she inherited from her dad. They were just being ran in the ground.
Hmm.
True story, her maintenance guy who was living for free in one of the properties, all he did all day was go in one of the spare garages she had on an empty lot and was doing air dusters. So it was a mess.
Wow.
Everything was in disarray. And she was ready. She was about in foreclosure. Okay. Um, and she stage 4 cancer, knew she was terminal. And I think it just all worked out where we got a great deal. We bought 16 properties all at one time.
Okay.
We bought them at about 35% LTV because she was literally like a week or two away from full foreclosure. Contacted the local bank, talked to
Mm.
him. He kind of knew who we were um, through financials back and forth. He's like, okay, you guys are good. So what we did is it wasn't an assumption. It wasn't like a sub two type of
Okay.
situation. It was, hey, I already got this thing papered. we've done, because of the foreclosure proceedings, trying to get assess a value. We've
Sure.
already done appraisals within the last year. So, hey, here's what it is: 4.6%, 5 year with a balloon. I was like, okay,
Wow.
let's go. And we bought 16 in one fell swoop. That was our first dip into real estate. Most people are like, I bought this my neighbor's house, or whatever. But we went head first. Cashed out the 401k for the downstroke because they still wanted participation.
Yeah.
And then we actually took, what was it, about 30, 40 days before the closing date to get all these properties and all the title work and everything done. They needed cleaned up. I dumped about 40 grand and so many hours of my own time into fixing and cleaning these properties up
Mm.
before they were like legally even mine,
Yeah.
So once again, just some faith there, man. And what it all boils down to, what I did, I quit. I left that job July 2nd of 2022. Going back to that core value of mine, which is to provide for my wife and my family. That's my
Yeah.
job, right? Is I did the math. I changed the rents. I evicted tenants. I cleaned them up. I made it all work. And I basically created enough cash flow, positive net cash flow monthly,
Hmm.
that would be equivalent to my net income from my job.
Wow.
So before I made that big jump, that big leap,
Yeah.
I could look at my wife in the face and I'd say, honey, hey, we're not rice and beans, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
But we're
Yeah.
not, I was 60, 80 hours a week. And that's what
Sure.
we didn't adapt to that lifestyle. We've always lived well within our means.
Hmm.
Like right now, as we sit here, I think we did a valuation. We've got, I don't know, 3 point something in real estate. And right now the only liens we have on it, we've got a seller financed at 250, and we still have that same original note that I'm at like 140 or something is what's left on it. So we're at a 10%
Yeah.
LTV as far as liens right now. We're getting ready to do a big cash out refi, do some developments, but we still live in the same 1,800 square foot slab home, old national home from the 50s. Like,
Yeah.
we're just the same people.
That's good.
So then Atlas was just I knew I needed I guess I was still pouring concrete and doing things like that on the side when I was working at Ameren, or the utility. And the awakening, I guess, of that is my best friend. He's a police officer here in town, and we were doing this stuff on the side, and we were just getting jobs left and right. Like,
Mhm.
it was all like post COVID. And they're like, oh, we love it. And we always did great work. We prided ourselves, no matter what the cost was, we're going to do it right. And
Yeah.
we're going to, make sure we do it good. But they're like, man, we had one customer come to us and says, I'm so glad I went with you guys, because I've seen the other guys work and it's nowhere near as good. And I would have been paying him twice as much. I said, what do you mean twice as much? They're like, yeah, here's his bid, and here's a bid from this guy, and here's a bid from this guy. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm leaving so much money on the table. And that's what sparked looking for something else. It was also a mindset thing, not being my true version of myself that I could be.
Sure.
But I just had to figure out, I had to navigate how to support the family and insulate my family from the ups and downs of being self-employed and being in a contracting business, and real estate. That was the key to me. Like, that was the hinge point. And once we figured it out, man, it's been rocket fuel since then.
Jason, you have a hat that says I love solar, and I know from talking to you
Yeah, man.
that
Yeah, and you have a hat that says kill complacency, and that's why I walked up to you. So we are in like the really cool hat club.
Yeah. But talk to me about the government incentives, because that's kind of your niche right now, right? Is solar and green energy and stuff like
Solar,
that.
yeah, solar and home efficiency overall. And so, like, when we started this company, we were just going to do concrete, masonry, excavating. I knew that was especially in the Midwest, if you're familiar, it could be 100 degrees in the summer and
Mhm.
-10 in the winter. So those items are very seasonal. If you have a hard winter, you might just be sitting in home or doing nothing. And I knew I didn't. That was a problem I incurred in my last business. So
Yeah.
tell you folks, it's a learn from your mistakes, and it's nothing wrong. We're built imperfect, right? But don't repeat them. Then that's when there's a problem. So I brought on a partner. He was a friend of mine, and he's probably the best HVAC guy you ever seen. There's a company called Service Titan, and they're a CRM for like home service businesses. They have a little HVAC rodeo thing, like who's the best of the best. And he accidentally placed like the 32nd best HVAC guy in the country last year or something. He
Wow.
was doing these tests and anyhow. So I brought him on because I knew I needed another stream so I didn't have those hot and cold times. And I just evaluated, just like you're going to evaluate a property, you're going to evaluate an investment. What is my highest margin of home service business with the
Mm,
least barrier to entry? Naturally you think, hey, electrician or plumber. Well, you got to have all these licenses and go through these things. HVAC, you still have to have licenses and stuff, but it's not like this 5 or 10 year apprenticeship. You know what I mean?
okay.
So I brought Mike on, and he's been great. And so we grew the HVAC business. I knew enough about it to be dangerous, uh, and that complemented well. Mike's a little older than me. He's ready for like a slowdown, and he's still with the company. But I bought out his portion in the beginning of this year, and he's still on, and he runs our HVAC business, and he is happy as a lark.
Hmm.
And I'm happy as a lark. Like everything's going great, man. Everything's going real good. But the whole solar thing, it just evolved. There's so many people who were not looking at your hat, Marty, who were acting complacent and they weren't doing the right thing.
Hmm.
There's an old saying: the difference between an amateur and a professional is the ability to do the right thing when no one else is looking. You know, and so many people need to, like, I don't know, write it on the back of their hand just to see it, because the level of quality of work, especially post COVID, a lot of those skilled, you know, craftsmen and trades guys, I don't know what happened to them. They're gone. And then there's no generation backfilling the guys that have exited.
Yeah.
And in turn, it just left a void in the market. That's all it was. It was an analysis again that, hey, we have a maintained, or in some cases, because of the COVID time, increased
Hmm.
demand, but now we have a more of a finite supply. So it's in that margin is where, money's made, or good things happen.
Over the years, I have been coached by countless mentors, and now I want to offer that to you as well. How? By Marty Hofmann's Life Coaching. This will be a 6-week program in which I will guarantee you will develop a more growth mindset. We will set goals and learn about the importance of the processes and habits behind those goals. I will also help you see your story differently as things happening for you, not to you. We will also be discussing your future self and give you clarity on who that is and what it looks like. For more information, please follow the link below or hop on martyhoffman.com and follow the coaching link.
Jason, how big is your town that you're doing this business in? The small
So
town?
Danville, I think, well, it used to be a big town. It used to be like 60 some odd thousand people, but once again, we were heavy manufacturing.
Okay.
We had General Motors, we had, GE, we had all these things, and they've just all gone. I think Danville now is probably about 30,000, somewhere in there,
Okay.
high 20s, 30,000.
So big enough
And
to support you guys, but not huge.
oh yeah, oh yeah, big enough to support us. And also that's, I was talking with my coach Ian yesterday, and we were just talking about vision and things like that. And you know, like the vision for Atlas is not that all of a sudden, Marty, you're going to be in Oklahoma and you're like a billboard Atlas Total Home. Like that's not our vision at all. You've heard those little sayings like big fish, small pond, small fish, big pond. All we want to do at Atlas is we want to supply like really solid customer support, do a really good job. In essence, we want to be, I say, I want to be a fat fish in a puddle. You know what
Mm,
I'm saying? That's kind of the way that we our outlook on business. If we grow organically and we need to go to other places to serve customers, cool, man. I'll go with that. But I'm not like actively like, how many satellite locations can we get?
yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. And that's kind of been my philosophy with real estate is I want to be I want to be, well, my market's like 12,000, but
Mhm.
I want to be the number one guy here. And it's a lot easier to be number one
Exactly.
here than in OKC where
Yeah.
there's a million people.
Uh-huh. Agreed. Um, you gotta keep me reined in, man. Like I get so excited about things that go off on tangents. So I'm gonna get back to the solar part we were talking about. Um, Long and short, we were doing this business, and we had a contractor call us because we have excavators and skid loaders and things that a lot of other solar installers don't have. Well, they were doing a bunch of big ground mount installations for farmers around here. Okay, if you don't know, a farmer, you know, 11 months out of the year, not 10 and a half months, they have just a normal bill that you would expect for a business, right? But then all of a sudden they kick on the grain dryers and all this, and that $300-400 bill balloons to $5,000 or $6,000.
Hmm.
So farmers were just hot heavy on it. because solar was a way with the net metering, like a 1-to-1 ratio. It was a way that they could basically kind of arbitrage that big bill by collecting and sending back
I
those extra
see.
kilowatt hours overproduction, and it would equal out. So that way, when they would incur that big cost, it was cool because they built enough,
Yeah.
in the previous months. Um, so because of our stuff, we got into it on the first day. We just like utilized our equipment and our skill sets. And dude, we were doing stuff that was jaw dropping. Like if you're going to do, for example, and this may not be relative to all the listeners, but if you were doing like a 66 kW system, that would normally take a good solar installation crew.
Hmm.
It'd normally take them 2-3 days. We did it with 4 or 5 guys in like 6 hours, because rather than walking from one end and carrying a
Yeah.
panel and walking it back, we put it on the forks on the skid loader and started just as we were doing it like an assembly line. You know what I mean? And we utilized, we weren't renting little walk behind trenchers. We just put the trencher attachment on the skid loader and just mowed away.
Zipped it.
And
Yeah.
it just evolved. There was definitely a gap in that market for quality, and for like craftsmanship. And man, it's just been rocket fuel since. And I kind of deep dove rabbit holed into tax credits and stuff, especially
Yeah.
for commercial customers and all that. And I guess that knowledge is just what excelled us to the top
Hmm. Well, and that's
in
what
our puddle.
that's what I was intrigued by in talking to you at the event, was the way that you knew all about all the hacks and
Mhm.
the tax code and the opportunities that the government, I mean, the way the government wants to direct us, they do that through the tax code and through these incentives. And I know, is solar like a 30% discount or rebate? How's that?
So so federally everyone gets a 30% federal
Mhm.
ITC. So 30% of the total cost, that's electrical upgrades, it's all those things that go into installing the system. They're going to get a 30% tax credit. A lot
Mhm.
of people don't understand a tax credit. It's pretty simple. It's a dollar for dollar reduction of your taxable liability. Okay. And you utilize that and leverage it against what your tax bill is at the end of
Sure.
the year. Whether you're self employed and you got to pay in, or you're a W 2 employee and you have to, they're doing withholdings weekly.
Yeah.
What it does is just reduces how much you owe. You get a larger return. Is how that works.
Mhm.
And then state to state, we're very fortunate, and some people disagree with me for living in Illinois, that they actually have a state and utility level incentive that actually
Oh, okay.
makes that value proposition even stronger.
Even
You know
better.
what I mean? Yeah.
Yep.
And then also, depending on where you live, man, a lot of people don't know this, and a lot of solar companies don't tell people. Um, for example, in Vermilion County, we are considered economically depressed by Department of Energy.
Mm.
We get an extra 10% bonus when it's not for principal residents. So for businesses, farmers, whatever.
Okay.
And then also we had a coal-fired power plant that shut down since 2009, which was part of that energy, like the Paris Climate Accord affected that and caused that shutdown. So we get another 10%. So actually customers in my county and any county that physically abuts to it
Yeah.
can get a 50% tax credit in lieu of just that 30.
Wow.
So that was a big differentiator. And the way that I found that out was somebody dropped a little line and told me about it, and I literally read all of an IRS tax bulletin.
Mm-hmm.
Marty, I'm going to give you a little secret. I'm going to give the listeners a little secret. If you want to like scratch your eyeballs out at the end of something, go read a tax bulletin, okay? Because it is just pages and pages and pages. But I knew that I had to learn it, right? That was what's preventing me. There's my differentiator within the business and how we present things to customers. You know what I mean?
Hey, I have an assignment for you. Will you
don't.
will you take that thing and throw it at ChatGPT and ask it to highlight it for you in 300 words or 200 words?
Oh yeah, I've already done that.
Does it
Dude,
work?
AI has oh yeah, it works.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it works.
That's what
find me the relevant. Yeah, and we I never thought.
My insurance agent does that. Show me the difference between this policy and this policy. And instead of having to read 12 pages of small print that,
Yep.
It breaks it down to him. So
yeah.
So that'd be another
AI works, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. AI works.
wanted to thank you guys for listening to the end. In closing, I just wanted to add that if this message resonates with you, if it aligns with your values, and something in it today triggered something, then you can also look me up on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. We are really trying to help people live more intentional lives to kill the complacency with which they have subscribed to. I know there's many ways which I get sucked in all the time. So if this is beneficial, follow me there.